My dad was just a race fan, and we sat in the stands for years and years and years. He had a good friend named Larry Howard who owned really successful midgets. He'd won Turkey Night, I think, 5 or 6 times as an owner, and won it 4 years in a row with Ron Schumann. So that was our connection to getting into racing, getting into the competition side of it. Larry's still around today. He doesn't race anymore, but he's a really sharp guy. Taught a lot of people on how to race, and that's what kind of bridged the gap between us being just regular fans and getting involved in racing and starting to race quarter midgets and all that. Every Saturday night we'd go watch the sprint car races, and I watched a guy named Dean Thompson win every Saturday night, and he was just an inspiration to me. And I knew that from that point on I wanted to drive race cars in some form or another. And obviously watching sprint car racing every Saturday night, I wanted to drive a sprint car, but that's really the biggest reason that how and why I got into racing. I've always enjoyed everything about racing, working on the race cars, obviously driving them, number one, trying to make them go fast. But when I got to be 16, 17, started racing full-size midgets and racing for my dad. We started winning races, and then I started getting phone calls from people back east, and that's when I realized I could probably make a living doing it. Raced the USAC, National Midget Tour. We got, lucky. We won that thing 3 years in a row with 2 different car owners between Pete Willoughby and Keith Coons, and then Steve Lewis and 9 Racing. And 1 year, I actually won the Silver Crown title and the midget title all in the same year, so that was a great year. And when I was in Indianapolis racing, running the USAC Tour, IRL was just taking off, the IndyCar deal, and I did a lot of tire testing for Firestone back in those days for a guy named Fred Treadway, who was a successful car owner, won Indianapolis, and I wanted to go IndyCar racing, and I had some interest from Roger Penske, but that was during the kart IRL days, and he was obviously racing kart, which was mainly a road race background, so really it didn't fit what I'd been doing at that point. And then obviously Fred Treadway, I ran the Indianapolis 500 for him, but I really wanted to go IndyCar racing. But with Tony Stewart already down here, he was at Gibbs. I was living with him in Indianapolis and in Columbus, Indiana, and he got me a shot. Before I knew it, I was down south racing for Joe Gibbs. So it just happened really quick, and with the help of a lot of people, I was able to get down here in NASCAR. I mean, I can't pin it on one person, but I mean, obviously my dad got me started racing. He developed that passion, and Larry Howard, who I mentioned earlier, but Parnelli Jones, Paige and PJ, their whole family was great to me, and Tony Stewart. I mean, if you want to go down to a specific event, it would have to be Tony Stewart, because he got me my opportunity with Joe Gibbs Racing, and that's what set me on the path to stock car racing. So he's always been really good to me, and even way back when I went USAC racing, I lived at his house in Columbus, Indiana, and that was when he was IndyCar racing. He hadn't even made it down here, but it's hard to just say one, because it was a group of people that were always so good to me. I'll tell you a story. There was no, when I came to NASCAR, there was no driver development. I mean, I got a shot with Gibbs. I sat in an office with Joe Gibbs, and he told me that, hey, we're going to give you a shot in our Busch car, which is sponsored by MB&A, and you're going to crash more than you ever crashed in your life, and it's going to be the toughest year you've ever had in racing, but we're going to stick with you, and that's what we're going to do. And that was I laugh at these driver development programs now, but that was how Joe Gibbs explained it to me, and before I ever turned a wheel in his race car. So I was very fortunate to come in when there was more leniency, and where owners gave you more of a time to develop your skills, and they didn't want it right now. They knew it was going to be tough and take some time. I don't know if I'm any good at it, but I just keep going. So